everybody, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Laurie and I live in Gardening Zone 7A, and welcome to my channel. If you watch my nail channels, you'll see that this is a little different behind me. I'm filming inside today because it's winter and I want to talk a lot about flowers, and I thought I'd sit in my spot that I film my nail videos and change it up a little bit. So while it does look the same, this is for my gardening channel. So today I wanted to sit down and talk to you about my favorite annuals for 2024. This was my third year for really getting into gardening, so I'm fairly new, but it was my first year with my gardening channel. It was fun to share all the things with you guys, and I just wanted to go over my favorite annual flowers with you guys in case you're trying to figure out what you want to do for 2025. There are some that have been favorites for a little while and some that were brand new to me this year, and I'm excited to talk about them all. And I'm going to talk about some honorable mentions, and then I'm going to take it down to my top 5, and then ending with my number 1, which was my favorite for the year. So it should be really fun. It was nice to look back at my garden and all the lovely things that I grew in it this year, and it made me look forward to what I'm going to be growing this year. I really need to start thinking about it and planning ahead. There are a few things that I have in mind, but I'm sure you guys are thinking the same. I'm just itching to get back out there, but honestly, it has been a nice little break. So let's talk about all those things. Like I mentioned, I'm going to talk about the honorable mentions first. The first one being Monrovia Gomphrena. I have grown both Monrovia and Proven Winners Gomphrena, and I really like Monrovia the best. I'll try to remember which exact one I have and put it on the screen here, but it's the purple one, and it is just amazing. I feel like it's a little more densely packed with blooms than the Proven Winner one is, which is a little more like sporadic and a little bit airy. It just is a great mounding plant. It's so gorgeous. It takes up a big area. I just love those little balls on top. They're so cute. I love any flowers that have a little ball on top. I think I want to try the white ones this year somewhere. We'll see if I can get my hands on them. I usually find the Monrovia Gomphrena at, I believe, Lowe's or Home Depot. I can't remember exactly which one. I think it's Lowe's. Such a good one. I look for that one every year, and I think this is the third year that I've had it. It just grows well. It's pretty drought tolerant, I feel, and what I love about it is they start off round and bushy, and then in fall it kind of changes a little bit and evolves with the season, and they get a little elongated, and then they have this kind of wheat look to them, so they kind of look a little bit like straw, and they dry out a little bit, and I think it just looks really nice in the landscape during the fall time, and they just constantly bloom. Love that plant so much, especially the Monrovia brand. Another one I want to mention is Bubblegum Supertunia by Proven Winners, and this is a really popular one. I think it'll always be one of my favorites because it's one of the first petunias that I fell in love with. I'm really not a petunia person. I've only grown petunias for probably the last 3 years, and it is amazing, you guys. It's non-stop blooming. You do have to fertilize them once a week, and I was pretty diligent about that, but even if you don't and you miss a little bit of time, they still bloom, but not quite as vigorously. As you guys probably know if you're in the garden world and on any sort of social media network, this is one that's talked about a lot, and for good reason. It's a really, really beautiful pink color. It is a little bit of a warmer pink. I think I might want to try out a little bit a cooler pink this year, but it is amazing. It's not one of my top 5s this year because one other Supertunia beat it out, and I can't decide which one is my favorite. I like them both, but they're both quite different, honestly. So Bubblegum is an amazing one. If you haven't grown it, give it a try for sure. I had Bubblegum trailing down one of my cement walls, and it's just so beautiful. I absolutely loved it so much. Superbena Cobalt is a Superbena that I hadn't tried out before, and this is from Proven Winners too. I have quite a bit of Proven Winner plants in here just because I've seen them everywhere and want to try them out, and so they can be hard to find in our area, so I feel like if I see them, I grab them and I want to try them out. So I do have quite a few Proven Winner plants here because I try to snack them up when I can get them. But the color of that one is gorgeous. It's a beautiful purple, but it has like a hint of blue in it, and it just really stands out. One thing about it is it's super vigorous. Like, it pretty much took over my container. I had some other things in there Like I had some geraniums in there with it and they pretty much swallowed them up. But anyway, so I have learned my lesson to plant a vigorous Supertunia or Superbena with another vigorous plant so they don't cancel each other out. So that's one thing I'm going to do. Love that bright pop of purple though. It was pretty much one big mass of purple in my backyard by my shed in my window box, and this was my first year for my window box and I absolutely loved it in there. Another thing that I had in there is one one of my top 5, and we'll talk about that one in a minute. But yeah, such a beautiful color. I really wanted to go with a bold color in that shed window backs because it's a little bit further away from my house, and I wanted to be able to just see that pop of color. And then another honorable mention is the Suncredible Sunflower, also by Proven Winners. I wasn't planning on picking this up, but I like to go around to different garden centers in my area, and I probably went to 6 different ones, and I popped in this one that's pretty close to my house and found it, and I was like, oh yep, I need to grab that. I wanted to try it. I've heard good things. Planted it in the corner by where I do kind of my cut flower area, although I haven't done cut flowers in there yet. I'm going to try to do some cut flowers in there this year. But stuck it back there and it just bloomed and bloomed and bloomed and bloomed. It was crazy. And the bees were always on it. It's such a pollinator attractor, and I just couldn't get over it. I never cut it back or anything or deadheaded it, and it just kept on blooming and giving me so many beautiful flowers. I will have to say though, they are pretty skinny stems. I didn't do any cutting on it, so I don't know if the stems will get thicker if you deadhead it more, but I don't think it's meant to go in like bouquets. I think you could have a few in there, but they're not like the big fat sunflowers. It's definitely more of a more petite sunflower, but I absolutely loved it. Okay, so now let's talk about my top 5. So starting with number 5 is Superbena Pink Cashmere, of course, by Proven Winners. I believe this came out last 2023, or maybe it was new 2024. The thing I love about it is the color. If you know me, and especially if you follow me on my nail channel, Go Polished, you know that I love light pinks. In fact, I just did a video over there of my favorite light pink polishes, and I just love that color. So I love this one. I was super excited when it came out and excited to try it and put it around in different areas in my yard to kind of see where it did well. And I did find that it does need full sun for sure. Like the areas that wasn't in full sun, it took a really long time to get going. Even though it had quite a bit, I would say like 6+ hours. I definitely feel like it needs the 8+ hours, and it's probably what it suggests, but I tried lots of different areas. But it definitely needed that hot sun to get started and get blooming. I feel like it didn't start blooming till the end of July maybe. It just took a long time. But once it did, it's just gorgeous. I love the color. It's kind of variegated, so it starts off as a darker pink and then gets lighter pink and then white in the edges. And one other thing that I loved about it, I underplanted it where my Atlas roses are, and they're a beautiful orange, and I love that color combination. Hopefully I have clips of all these so you guys can see that. I'm going to look through and put all these video clips in here so you guys can see it, but that was one of my favorite combos, the pink and the orange together, and I just absolutely loved it. But there was another thing I learned about it too. I did feel like it kind of had periods where it lulled, so it would like bloom and lull, whereas with like the Superbena Cobalt, that one didn't lull so much. So there was that. Even with that though, I still loved it, mostly because I love the color and I'm definitely a color girl, but I just wanted to let you know that it did kind of have those lull periods, and I'd hear other people talk about it and say kind of the same thing, and maybe I needed to fertilize it more. I've heard you don't really need to fertilize the Superbenas, but I would kind of, you know, give it a little bit of that fertilizer that I give my petunias. So anyway, I did fertilize it, but probably not like once a week, but just wanted to let you guys know that. But that is one of my favorites. Love the color, such a beautiful flower. I think I want to try it in containers this year. And then my number 4 is Maverick Pink Geranium. This geranium is so gorgeous. I almost gave up on geraniums this year, but I found out I really wasn't putting them in the right spot. And I think I found the right spot in my yard. I have this little swoop area with some boxwoods in the backyard. It's in full sun, it gets a little dry, and it was just perfect for those geraniums. I also paired it with some geraniums that I got from Costco that were kind of a reddish pink. Love the pink and red combo, so fun. And the Maverick Pink for sure got quite a bit bigger and bloomed quite more vigorously. So many beautiful pink blooms. I definitely want to try more of the Maverick geraniums, and I love the variegated leaves that they had, a little bit dark in the center and then the base just that light green. Such a stunning plant. I also tried this year to overwinter them, so I potted some up and put some in my home, and the Maverick Pink and the red ones, and the Maverick Pink just kept blooming and blooming and blooming. It's insane. They're inside. Not as much as they did outside. I just can't believe I keep getting more blooms, especially in like November, December, and January. I'll put some video in here so you guys can see that, but it's been such a joy in my home and I've loved it. One of my favorite flowers. I also overwintered some in paper bags in my storage room, so so we'll see how those do. I'm going to try to replant them in my yard, but if I have success with that, I'm definitely going to love that plant 10 times more than I already do, and I just love it. So I'm a big fan of those Maverick geraniums. I believe they're from Syngenta Flowers. I looked that up. I don't know if that's correct, but I think that's like who produced the flower, or, you know, bred it or whatever. So anyway, love, love, love. I know Laura from Garden Answer, I need to try to figure out which one she has, because I know she has a Maverick pink one, but I feel like hers is more cool toned than mine. And so I don't know if they're the same or not, but I need to look that up and figure it out. But I'll definitely want to try the kind she has, because I feel like it's a little different toned pink. Definitely more that I want to try out. My number 3 is Jazzberry Petunia. I love this flower so much, you guys. And the thing that I love about it, it's got this beautiful kind of purple color that has a little bit of pink. It's really interesting. It's actually a nail polish color that I really like to wear, this kind of purpley pink. And another thing that I love about it, it has continuous blooms. It does kind of have a mounding habit, especially compared to Bubblegum Supertunia, and so it's a little more dense than that and mounding. It does still trail a little bit, but not quite like Bubblegum does. It's a little more of a dense trailing, if that makes sense. But that's what I loved about it. I feel like it's just a little bit different than Bubblegum, and I just love the growth habit of it. Since it is dense, it does kind of grow up and overtake some other flowers that might be next to it. So I did find I had to cut it back quite a bit so it wouldn't like swallow up my marigolds. I had it next to some orange and marigolds, and I loved that color combo. So pretty. One other thing about that is I do find it kind of interesting to know what colors to pair that with, because I'm kind of funny about my color pairing. And since it is that kind of purpley color, I'm pretty picky about what I put next to it. So that's the only thing about that one that I feel like it can be a little off in the garden with the colors, and so I have to be careful about the color scheme with it and where I'm putting it, because I really think that through. So anyway, love that one. Such a gorgeous petunia. I think that was their Supertunia of the year last year when I grew it, so that was fun too. And then my number 2 is Trailing Red Mezoo, also by Proven Winners, and this is the first time I've grown it. I've seen it all around the internet and knew I wanted to try it. I think Plaids and Poppies was where I first saw it and thought I need to hunt it down. So on my little journey at all the garden centers, I found it at this one that's probably about 20 minutes away, and snagged a few up and knew I needed to put it in my containers. It's drought tolerant. It does have those waxy leaves that look almost like a succulent, and maybe it is a succulent. I'm kind of newer to gardening, but that's what makes it drought tolerant, and it just cascaded out of those containers so beautifully. I love the trailing habit of it. It kept growing and growing and growing. I had to trim it. Man, I feel like it does good. It says sun, but I feel like it does do good in part shade areas too. So I definitely want to put it in some pots by my shed this year. I'm definitely always going to grow that. And I also loved it in the landscape. It was so vigorous. I was curious to see how it would do, but it took over this huge area. I put it in between some Bubblegum Supertunias. It trailed over my wall down by my creek, and I just absolutely loved it. One of my favorite things about that, and I'm kind of tempted to put some more in trailing down, because I love how dense and lush it looks, especially here in Utah where it gets really dry and hot. It just felt like it was so nice to have something look lush out there instead of like dry and parched. You definitely use that one for its foliage, but it does have these tiny red flowers that are almost daisy-like, or I would say like aster-like. So cute. You can barely see them, but I do like the little interest that they add to that plant. Such a beautiful plant. I'll definitely be trying to find it every year, and hopefully that garden center will have it. If not, I'll have to order online, because I definitely know that I want it. And like I mentioned, Proven Winners can be a little hard to find in my area, so wish me luck for that. And I'll wish you luck too, and hopefully you guys can find it, because I will always have it in my containers from now on. Gorgeous. And then my number 1 was Surefire Rose Begonia. I had also seen this one. I had this in my front yard by my front door, and for this area I had seen a picture of Mackinac Island that I just wanted to kind of recreate. It had these red begonias. I think they were just full-on red, but I wanted to try the Surefire Rose. It had some ageratum or some kind of purple. I have cat's pajamas out there too, which is a purple blooming flower. And then it had some pops of white, and then lemon coral sedum, like that kind of brighter green. And so I wanted to recreate that, and I feel like that mixing was gorgeous. So I have the Surefire Rose, I have the Diamond Snow Euphorbia, which is a little more dense than the Diamond Frost, and then I had the Lemon Coral Sedum along with the Geranium and the Cat's Pajamas to bring in that purple. I loved the combination. I usually don't go for like corally colors, which is what this Sweet Fire Rose is, but I love the brightness of it. And the color is really interesting. So it starts out as like a deep kind of red coral, and then as it ages, it lightens to like a pink, kind of pinky coral. So definitely a brighter flower. I loved it. They got massive, they're drought tolerant, they don't need a lot of fuss. Garden Answer says you don't really need to give them any fertilizer. I did give them fertilizer though, just because I was getting all my other plants, so I just put some on there. Loved that one. Such a workhorse in the yard, and I really didn't feel like I had to do anything to it. You don't have to deadhead it. I feel like when the blooms fell off, they weren't like dried and you couldn't see dried bits. They just kept like cleaning themselves and reblooming and were beautiful. I definitely want to try the Surefire White this year, which is newer. I think in 2023 or 2024. I talked to my local garden center and told him that I wanted to get those. In fact, I talked to him last year and had him order the Surefire Rose for me, and then I really wanted him to order the Surefire White. He didn't write it down when I was talking to him. And I almost was like, are you gonna write this down? But he didn't, so hopefully he remembers that and they'll be there. If not, like I mentioned, there might be a few plants that I buy online because I really want to try it. I've tried different begonias in my yard and they don't really do that well. I don't know why these are just so vigorous, but they are. I had tried some begonias, the non-stop begonias, on my creekside bed this last year, and they just like halted to a stop. In fact, I made that joke in my video because I was like, these guys aren't even blooming, they're doing nothing, and I want to try them along that creek because the nice thing about the Surefire begonias is they do well in sun or shade, and I have a lot of areas that are kind of sunny and shady or shade in my kind of forest area, and I want to try them out and just see how well they do because flowers actually have a hard time blooming in that area, and I want to see how well they do. So hopefully I can get my hands on the Surefire White, but I loved the Surefire Rose. I can definitely see why people love it so much. I'm ready for some softer colors this year. I'm thinking more like pinks and purples instead of like a corally red and purple. So should be fun to try out something different, but I'll definitely be using the Surefire Rose again in my yard sometime in the future. So that's my number one. I hope you guys really enjoyed that. So many gorgeous flowers, so many things that I've tried out, and these might not be new to you, but some of them were new to me, and hopefully some were new to you, so you can discover new flowers or new annuals you can grow in your yard. So let me know if you guys like this video. Let me know what you're doing in your garden this year, and maybe you might inspire me because I'm still kind of trying to get my garden all planned out. My next video, I'm going to go over my favorite perennials for 2024, and hopefully that will help you in deciding what you want to put in your garden. So thanks so much for watching, and we will see you guys in my next video. Hopefully we can all get in the garden soon. Bye guys.